Yeah, but I still think there's like a social harm to some of these things. Like we're talking about Dave Chappelle and all that stuff. Is like, do these jokes actually create a culture where it's easier to disenfranchise somebody? Is the violence in culture in society only to what you do to a person or that you make them feel?
For those that are not aware of what we're talking about, Dave Chappelle released a new special on Netflix as a part of his overall deal with Netflix to put out several different Netflix specials. In an earlier special, he had some jokes about the alphabet people, the LGBTQIA plus community. And he had a joke about a car. I won't tell the joke, but that joke basically started a series of things where he began to put jokes that were seen as poking at a group of people in almost every special sense. Or did that happen before the car joke?
There had been jokes. He'd had sort of like specifically. I mean, it had been gay jokes, but specifically like jokes at the expense of the trans community.
Okay, so it was specifically at the expense of the trans community.
But there was jokes that were kind of gay jokes, but really like when you think about like with his main, especially recently, it was like he said it as gay, but he was talking about a woman that's transitionism. You know what I mean? It wasn't that they were lesbian; that they were like actually. He just kept on misgendering them.
Well, he had the joke where he talked about getting in a fight with a lesbian at a bar.
Yeah.
But I think that part of it he was acting like was...
Spoiler, everyone. Spoiler. If you have not seen Dave Chappelle, The Closer, spoiler.
Skip this whole shit.
Yeah.
Skip this whole part. Until you've seen it. Come back and listen.
Yeah, but I guess the thing about it, that's my only question about it. It's like, if you act like, okay, they're just jokes, you can just not listen or not take part of it. Like, at what point do we, attack people that they won't stand? Like, I kind of like these Tiki Torque motherfuckers are saying, I don't like that they exist, but it's like, okay, you're going to wear those hats and carry around Tiki Torches. I want to know, like, wave your flags. We want to watch you. Do your thing, I guess, but we're going to watch you guys, opposed to when they were, like, hidden in these, like, you didn't know who was the KKK member. Like, I like the group that we can see behind the flag. I don't like they exist, but I like that we know where they are and we can watch them.
That's true, too.
You know, but I guess I think about...
Rage Against the Machine song? Sorry to interrupt. You know that Rage Against the Machine song, Killing in the Name? Yeah. Some of those are workforces are the same, the burn crosses.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I can't remember who said this specific thing, but, like, the thing that sucked about the ending of things like the Civil War, and the thing that sucked about racist people having to go into the closet, so to speak, after like the Civil Rights era, like Brown versus Board of Education, and that entire era where it stopped being legal in a front-facing way to be a racist. Those people were able to take their hoods off
and hide.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, but then you find, like, I think part of why we're seeing, initially we were seeing so much of this sort of response to these like, regardless of whether it was, like, anti-whatever group, whether it's Muslims or these kind of, it was, like, out of the Trump presidency, then there was, like, both this resurgence of, like, yeah, I'm not going to feel bad about saying these things anymore. I won't let them hold me. So you see a resurgence of some of this stuff, and then you see a big, like, that's when cancel culture had kind of jumped from just bullshit that the Republicans did to the Dixie Chicks to what, specifically first, by the way, right. To what's happening now. So there's almost like, to combat how emboldened this one group was, you're starting to see, nah, fuck you, we're not going to just fuck with you. You know, like, if Bruce Willis is going to make America great again, I'm not fucking with Bruce Willis. All right, this person, I'm not going to fuck with them. You become more like, nah, because it like, you put that whole evil, into destroying those people, like, taking those people down, as opposed to, like, necessarily destroying race. I can't make your great uncle not racist, but I would like a society where he doesn't have any power beyond his one vote or whatever.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You know, like, that's
an important other side of the coin to what I said.
Yeah.
Because I agree with that too. It's like, there's definitely got to be a balance. It's like, I want people to express themselves openly, but I think that what we are seeing is that you have to, at this point, to say certain shit. Like, you can, because we can, I mean, again, like, we still have free will. Anybody can say what they want, but it's gotten to the point where the repercussions of saying certain shit are just not worth saying it. So I think that there almost is a checks and balance, but as this is a thing me and you have talked about, me and Ella have talked about, like, the pendulum swings. So I think now we're getting a little bit into, like, okay, anything you fucking say can offend me. I don't give a fuck about nuance. I don't give a fuck about the, like, I feel like people aren't looking at the overall character of a person and the shit that they do. They're looking at the things that they say and basically like, oh, if you can joke about this, like, this is taken as like some slight against me, which is ironic because the entire point of this stand-up that he just released, he's explaining that. He's literally saying, he's like, look, yeah, I've made jokes about trans people. I've made jokes where I didn't even understand who the fuck I was talking about because I didn't know the language that these people use. I learned a lot of shit about it. I had a person that was close to me that was trans that killed themselves, and of course people, said what they said about that. But
no. What do people say about that?
The people were like, "Oh, he's using that," but that's a topic in itself. I don't want to like.
We almost have to go through each part of that bitch before we.
Yeah.
So continue with your overall point real quick. The macro point. We almost have to break.
Right.
We're gonna talk about that. We really got to break down part by part. I'm not gonna do any generalizing talking about my trans people.
Good
for
call.
Sure.
They're my homies.
Good call.
For sure.
Like,
yeah,
my family,
definitely.
They're my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's
I want to. It's
and
important that we're not.
Right. And the macro point is his whole point is like, look, I don't hate y'all. Like, I'm trying to tell y'all motherfuckers, I don't hate you. I've made jokes, and there's been shit that I don't understand. I have ways that I feel about this topic, but just because I don't necessarily agree with the way that you see everything, like, doesn't mean, like, it's a whole different thing than somebody that has ill will against you. So, but with that said, though, it is important to still consider people that are saying, okay, well, what you're doing is harmful, so for you to consciously do it is ill will. So I think that's the most important question when it comes to that, because it's like, okay, what's too far? This is a difficult gray area, because on one hand, I really like how honest he is and that he's willing to say that shit, but on the other hand, if I'm presented with information that, okay, like, this is actually harmful because XYZ, that still matters.
Yes.
Well, so what throws me.
No, I'm listening.
Okay, so what throws me off about it, and what I would almost want to know from Dave Chappelle is he talks about. So he walked away from a $50 million deal because he was specifically blackface in some sketch, and a white dude laughed his ass off, and he realized that basically his jokes were not enlightening people or just a joke, but actually carrying harm.
More like he was being laughed at than laughed with.
Yeah, and he kind of realized that there was something that was greater than that was actually creating harm and violence towards the people that he thought he was trying to, like, break through. But anyway, so he runs away from that, or walks away, right? It goes to Africa, all his enlightenment, like, shit. But then comes back and takes $60 million, and half his specials are disenfranchising another group that's been, or like, they're laughing about a group that had been exploited and persecuted here in America. So, and oddly enough, side thing, I mean, I think that at the moment, transgender people, they're more likely to have random assaults. They're more likely to have suicide, all these things. And actually, really,
that's
it comes
true.
down to black trans women are more likely to have any of these.
Yeah.
And specifically, just as black women are more likely to get AIDS and all this other crazy shit. So it's really wild that, like, these groups intersect. So he acts like it's almost this thing where it's like, why he's like, oh, I'm going to be racist against you. And all of a sudden, wait, now I'm a woman. Ha, you can't say anything to me. And there's this weird, like, he had conflates, like, what happened with Lil Baby, Dub Baby. Sorry, I'm sorry, Lil Baby. I apologize. Dub Baby. As being like he killed somebody, and they act like, well, they're more pissed off at what he said than the fact he killed somebody. It's like, I don't know the deal about what happened in Walmart.
No self-defense.
All right, so self-defense in Walmart. But I mean, I guess I wonder. It's like there's a lot of weird. Like he kind of. First off, I just think it was like he kind of jumps back and forth through these false equivalencies, like in a semi-incoherent way, and then it's like, well, dude, his joke at the expense of Lil Nas and anybody else that sucked dick in a parking lot or like whatever happened, you know, I mean, it was fucked up. I mean, it was like,
and there are people that suck dick in parking lots that aren't gay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. So what's wrong? First off, with sucking? I don't know. I'm still wondering why cock suck. Anyway, okay. So, but my question is like, well, yeah, you know, if you say these jokes and you might get canceled, like, you know, Dave Chappelle isn't necessarily going to, but it's odd because Dave Chappelle started off with talking about, like his pastor or somebody that like he sucked his dick, like he did some weird priest joke, which is actually similar to what happened in Yiannopoulos, where that guy was talking about this priest like that he's like child molestation.
Yiannopoulos isn't actually a comedian though.
Yeah, okay,
and
but
that's the difference.
And it wasn't a sketch, but I was just saying, like, I thought that was a little. So he's protected in a certain way, but I guess what I'm trying to get to is like, man, if I had a joke that's about joke, you go like, oh, this train, blah, you know, like these things, like saying those kind of stuff, and I get a laugh. But I said it's N-word, blah blah blah. Look there, this and this and this, and all of a sudden, boom, both canceled. Both. So it's like you're talking about like, so like what's the like, so there's this false equivalency with like, oh, I killed somebody, but they only cared about him saying gay word. Like, but yet, man, if I said some shit with the N-word and I fucking made some jokes they made in the 80s or some shit that they were saying in some Quentin Tarantino movie, I would fucking lose all my clients, and I rightfully so. So like, there's this weird, I dances around some shit that just, I don't know, man. I just think
I definitely get what you're saying, because that was one thing. Because I mean, I actually agree with a lot of. Like, I can identify with a lot of what he was saying, and I think I see why people misunderstood, and I'll get to that later. But like, to your point, like I agree that he is wrong about that. Like, he basically, in his mind, it seems that he's like, oh, people aren't getting canceled at anywhere near the rate. Like, well, this isn't as successful as it is with the LGBTQ community. And my first thought is like, I don't know, bro, because I'm pretty sure anybody that says the N-word or monkeys, like, you can't even say that. Or remember that guy that said niggardly? Yeah. He used the word niggardly,
which isn't a racist word.
Which is a word that exists now.
It's not even a racist word.
It's like what I... No, yeah, no, it's not racist at all.
It's
not a racist word. But no, what I'm saying is, you know that you know how it sounds. It's not to people that don't know what the word.
Do. It doesn't mean that.
Right. That's not what it means.
You gotta guess.
But you get my point though. It's like he had to know. Like, as soon as that shit came off, as soon as that shit he said that, it's like, all right, you had to know. You're not that fucking delusional.
Could you look up the definition for niggardly?
Yeah, I just found it. It's not generous or stingy, but does that have like a racist like history? Or?
So I don't know. Does the phrase "caught him red-handed" mean anything?
Yeah.
Does saying things like "gypped" mean anything?
Right. But
yes,
but you get my point. My point
they don't
is
necessarily.
My point is, people get up in arms when somebody says some racist shit, and they should. And people get up in arms when people say homophobic shit and transphobic shit, and they should. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where I relate to Dave Chappelle on it is that I have done that shit. I have had a lot of times where I've spoken out, and you know, like, I'm not bullshitting. I've spoken out like in favor of anybody in the anybody in the LGBT community, including trans people, because what you were saying about suicide rates, just like history of abuse, like drug abuse, all of that shit that comes with it is very fucking real, and it really fucking matters. But I've had that I've done that, and then turn around and had people tell me I was transphobic. Yeah. Why? Because I said I wouldn't fuck a trans woman.
Yeah. Or misgender someone.
It wasn't even a miss. I don't think I've once I knew about it, but yeah, like, but shit like
I've
that.
I've done that. I've misgendered people, not purposefully, but you know, you do it like several times in a conversation. That's fucking
me. And this is the thing. If people believe that I'm transphobic because I wouldn't fuck a trans woman, I think they have the right to fucking feel that way. Maybe I fucking am, but at the end of the day, it's like, I clearly, like, if somebody says that and they have a problem with it, I can get that, right? And this is where nuance comes in. But to say that, like, if you've seen other shit that I've said that's clearly in favor of trans rights, people's right to be who the fuck they are, whatever the fuck that is, as long as what you're into is not hurting other people, I'm fucking all for it. That's the
General,
type of person that I am. So
absolutely.
that's what frustrates me, and I feel like that's what's frustrating him is that people will decide like, oh, like you're this or you're that, but it's like, bruh, like I literally never said that shit. Like I have an opinion on this that differs from yours, and again, I can't speak for Dave Chappelle's case because he's far more extreme, like in his. I guess like his side, in his position than me, because it's like my position is literally just I wouldn't fuck a trans woman. There's nothing else that I've ever come across that's like I'm in disagreement with anybody that I've ever personally talked to that was trans or anything like that. So I think that part of it, like that's why I say it's a difficult question, because it's like, okay, where do you draw that line? Like, do you just determine that this person, do you really believe that this person is transphobic? Not just Dave Chappelle, but people in general. Because they said something that you disagree with, but they're in support of you existing as you are, and they have spoken out like in favor of your rights and your right to be who you are in the past. Well, does that not matter?
I think it matters. I just think the thing about it is like, it's one thing, I get you if you're Dave Chappelle, you grew up a certain way with your parents saying certain things. You really do think that sex is binary. There's men, there's women. You're either man. Like he was in the end, he was talking about the transgender comedian, and basically like, oh, they jumped, like, spoiler alert, fucking killed themselves by jumping off a fucking building. And said that was that was what?
Killed herself.
Well, I didn't say himself. I said themselves.
Okay.
But or like I meant to anyway. Well, then Space said, "Well, I don't know. That's the most man shit I've ever heard." Like, so he kind of then jumped back. Then he's like, "Well, if you don't know her, or sorry, the way that I do, you know that she'd laugh because of that." And it's like, but it felt like this weird, like, you should understand. Like, I have a black friend, and he says it's okay. I say the N word.
Right.
But then you get back. There's this weird full circle thing of like, I really think, I mean, anecdotally speaking, I've been into a handful of situations with black clients that have said specifically, using specifically different words, that everybody wants to be black until black shit happens. And Dave Chappelle kind of had a comment on that where they were in a fight and like he was talking about something, and all of a sudden, boom, that person called. And it's a weird thing where it's like, I was talking to him such and such, and before we were gonna go into blows, they called the cops. And that's like everyone wants to be gay until they want to be white or something. It was like some weird shit like that where it felt real strange. Where like, okay. Like, I feel like it just misses a big point. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think. Well, you had something you want to say.
I just wanted to say that like I think you as a person, or it's a general statement, but know your truth and be honest with yourself, and and if somebody was saying something like incorrectly, or like the best anyone can do is just educate them. Just raise awareness in that kind of way.
So
right, and I think when you're presented with education, I think if you're not a fucking asshole, you will apply that feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, be open minded and like accountability. If I'm like wrong about something, absolutely, please correct me.
Right.
Go. What did you?
No, I think it's a big point of like, I feel like I said all this shit, not to kind of say it again. I don't know, man.
All right.
Well, let me ask you this, just real quick. In your opinion, because I would say that my takeaway from it is that I think that Dave Chappelle is not transphobic. I think he took the specific time to address that. I think that the ways in which he tried to quote unquote prove he was not transphobic or whatever, people are questioning that, and I think those are valid criticisms. But my question for you with that said is this: do you feel like he's transphobic and he's misguided in how he's communicating it?
Yes.
Okay, I feel that.
I think that in general, I mean, I don't know. I just say that there's kind of a lack of sensitivity for trans community within. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't want to generalize myself, but with my anecdotal experience, specifically dealing with, I'll say that black people and hip hop clients that I've had are specifically more vocal about homophobic stuff. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've asked somebody, like, well, what would you do if your kid was a... I beat that out of them. Shit like that, just wild ass shit.
Yeah.
How old are they?
Now they're
I think that
older.
matters.
That's what I'm trying to say is that they're typically. And now, whenever I was younger, it was within that group. I've had young people still talking about like they're talking about bidets and stuff. You're like, I wouldn't use a bidet because that's gay as hell. I'm like, having an asshole, like clean assholes, gay. I'm confused.
Hygiene is gay.
Super different gay.
It's talking about anything with the asshole. Anything asshole is automatically gay. If you
Stay
like,
gay
if you like
all
your
the
asshole
way.
clean, you're
Real
gay.
gay is
It's
the
just,
way if a bidet
Stay
is
gay all the way.
No, I'm just
that
saying.
shit is
I don't know. I mean, I
life-changing.
feel bad because like I'm talking about my anecdotal experience, so I'm generalizing from that. But there's something where I think it goes back down to that point of being like it was literally one instance was talking about it was a equivalency, and I want to say false in that talking about this client said. Everybody wants to be N-word until N-word shit happens. Then acted like because, like, so then if somebody decides they want to be a woman, they can be a woman until they don't want to be a woman, these things. And it's like, it's really strange because I think it's a terrible false equivalency that sort of marginalizes a group by just being like, oh, they're funny because of this and this. And it's like, man, but also part of like, their real danger, they're like, they kill themselves at a higher rate and they have more assault at a higher rate. And black women that are this way are the ones that are more, it's like intersection. So I find it's weird that it's almost like Dave wants to act like that because somebody, he's like, my problem is you white people. And it's like, I'll have this issue and then all of a sudden, boom, oh, you're a woman and I can't make fun of you or I get canceled. And it's like, I don't know if that's the same people. It's not like some conservative person. Like, if we're talking about his beliefs, he's feminist. He wants to say, oh, women, I believe this about, like, he's like, I realize that definition of feminism, I am feminine. But he wants to jump behind what R.J. Rowling or whatever, J.K. Rowling, just kidding, Rowling, I don't know. But basically had said about being supportive of women, so that's TERF, so trans, exclusionary,
radical feminist.
Radical feminist, he says, I'm team TERF. So it's, okay, if you believe, so if with your opinions, you believe that sex is binary, there's no transgender, there's none of that stuff, and you want to conflate that with being transracial or something, though they're totally fucking different.
Are they?
I mean, that's another question.
We've had this conversation.
Okay, but can we come back to are they different? I don't know, man. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so are they different? Are they different? But I think that's part of why I think there's this thing where like, come on, man. And I think also why suicide, black people don't kill themselves at nearly the same rate. So whenever one group kills themselves at a much higher rate, I almost wonder if it's just there's not a sensitivity for it because you know what I mean? Like, is that fucked up to say?
I have a
No, I get. I
Is
think
that fucked up?
that's a
Okay,
valid
that-
question to ask. For sure.
Gunshot victims. That's why I wouldn't want to be like, gang,
right, so
black
let
on
me-
black crime. It's,
I got you.
White people get sad and shoot themselves.
All right,
It's
so
different.
first, if we're talking about the sensitivity, I think being a black person is inherently harsh, particularly within the black community. The way we talk to each other is more harsh than other people might talk to one another. I think that is mostly true, and you'll find that in just the way that black people interact with one another, particularly older black people.
And two,
What?
lighter skin.
Oh yeah, dude, I make fun of light-skinned people all the time.
That's
It's
a
one of my favorite
Harry
things.
Pace was like,
But it basically comes from slavery, and shit like that is like very, very built
fuck
in.
you for your mom getting raped by. Okay, anyway, continue.
More or less.
Okay,
Or
that's a really.
You're in the house.
All right.
You're in the house, and I'm
Yeah,
outside.
I know. I'm being insidious. I'm sorry.
So it really does go back to that in a big sort of way. In addition to that, colorism is kind of a thing all over the world. In whatever part of the world that you're in, the darker that you are, the worse you are going to be treated.
Facts.
So I do believe that among people where their life is harsh, they are harsh among one another. I would say that's not just true of black people. Look at like Irish people and the way that they talk to one another. Look at Sicilians specifically more than like Neapolitan people in Italy. Wherever you are, the darker people are
Right,
going
like
to-
intraculturally too. I
Yes,
think
yes,
that's a
yes.
thing. Like intraculturally, the rapport that you might have with your peers is going to be different from if
From
you're in a group of
outside,
people
yeah.
that is extra cultural.
Yes, but what I will also say is that there are certain times where people, specifically comedians, their job is to be an extreme version of segments of society.
Mm-hmm.
So
we have these conversations.
I would say yes, we as people do have these conversations, but we don't necessarily have framing or specific context.
Well, it's really hard to talk about this if nobody hears trans or nobody hears dealt with.
It's not specifically that. Yes, to an extent. We cannot speak for somebody who is not us. If we have not had that experience, how can we speak for this person? So, with that being said, I don't think that is the point of what a comedian does. I do believe that if a comedian says something similar to what Apollo was saying a moment ago, if somebody gives you some sort of correction in life, you would have to be an asshole to at least not take that into consideration.
Exactly.
Now, yes, there is constructive criticism and there is destructive criticism. Not all advice is good advice. But I would say specifically with comedians, their battle seems to be one of speech and the right or ability to make an attempt at a joke that might be really offensive because it might be funny. I think that is true of almost every comedian right now. There are some comedians where they specifically don't say fucked up things, like Jim Gaffigan. He's funny.
Right.
He's really funny. He's dope all the time, but he doesn't really curse.
I just remember something.
He's like very religious.
Gaffigan's
and,
good.
You know, that's not his thing. You know what I mean?
Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regan, Sinbad.
Yeah,
that's just straight off the top of my head.
Sinbad. Yeah,
Sinbad's fucking hilarious.
There are comedians that are really funny.
I saw
that
Sinbad
stay away
live
from,
in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
He's a funny guy.
Hey.
I would see Sinbad.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Dude, Sinbad, back in the day.
Okay, so actually, fundamentally, that's what I was going to say first about this. Is like, even beyond the controversial stuff, saying things about my people. You know,
so
it still was not funny. I just don't think I thought it was like a 4 out of 10 on funny anyway. I was just like, okay,
special?
oh yeah, Mike Pence is gay. Yeah, that was like funny like 4 years ago.
The special?
Yes.
And yeah, there was something off about it.
Like,
I will
still
say,
just like not that funny.
it wasn't.
It was like
yeah,
it wasn't even. It was like your old like it was a guy that was like that had the
just like stuff that's been addressed
the dude who
already.
made the special on Netflix Inside. What's his name?
Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham. That shit is great, by the way. Bo Burnham's Inside.
Burnham's good too, man.
Bo Burnham has an N-word joke.
I heard it.
Have you heard it?
Mm.
It's genius. It is genius. Here's how it goes. He's like, man, I love chips. And then he starts naming a bunch of chips, and then he'll like say like the first part of the word, and then the crowd has to like say something back, and it's like finishing the word. And he's like, you know what my favorite kind of chips is? Salt and vit. And then the crowd, like some of them said nigger. And it's like...
Damn.
See, but that is an N-word joke.
Mm.
It is an N-word joke.
Right.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
So the biggest fight and I've noticed a lot of different comedians giving pushback on this specific idea. You have to let me attempt to be funny. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Correct me, but don't like
destroy me.
Destroy
exactly.
Me. They're all asking for that. Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, particularly.
The difference with Dave Chappelle is that he
is untouchable.
Well, and he keeps coming back with the same bullshit. Kevin Hart hasn't
because
come back with a dollhouse homophobic story.
But that's because that's who keeps going at him. Now he's also who keeps going at him?
Say
the LGBTQIA community.
So that's what he wants to talk about. Yeah, but
specifically,
I still find it just funny that he'd walk away from a show because of the damage his jokes do, but then not see that his jokes.
I'm not saying that he's right.
That one South Park. Okay, so the South Park where they talk about gingers and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And now at one point it was like I was like, oh, it's whatever. But I read about how like some of that fueled some weird ginger like hate.
All right. Like, so are you responsible for what your fans do? I know at a certain point.
If you find out that it happens, has South Park had? Okay, so they made comments that happen. Have they had jokes about ginger people since?
Yeah, all the time.
Not the same level.
All the time.
Well,
I don't know.
I think
that was literally one episode. It wasn't like a constant theme in South Park. It was a single episode.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say though is that they didn't. like I think they were aware that it caused some violence. It didn't really have as many
They
transgender.
don't
I don't
shit.
think they-
South Park in
yeah.
particular are the type of people who tried to put Muhammad in a cartoon, and the only reason
Yeah,
that they
that's
didn't do
their-
it is because Comedy Central refused to air it.
I still think that the difference.
Yeah.
God damn it! I still think the difference is if
South
you
Park
double
doesn't
down on a
care.
fucking joke,
No,
you're an
no.
asshole.
There's an
and that's the
episode-
difference. It's
in
an
fact,
asshole thing to do, and that's
using
you
South
know what I mean.
Park-
Like that's the
using
big difference.
South Park. There's an episode where it's called Cartoon Wars. I think it was 2 parts, and Cartman is trying to destroy Family Guy.
Yeah.
And he meets Bart Simpson while he's there. And there's like King of the Hill posters in the background in some parts because King of the Hill is awesome. But in that episode, the way that they write Family Guy jokes is they have like porpoises or some shit that grab balls with words on them, and then the writers take whatever balls they grab and they write jokes. But they're such purists that if somebody takes one of the balls away, they stop working. They're like, nothing is off limits. Their writing style has to remain intact, and if you take one of the balls away, then you're interfering with the writing, and we'll stop working.
Mm-hmm.
That is the whole point of the episode. Cartman takes a single ball away because it happens with every show. Once a show takes something off the table and they can't make fun of that, then everybody can come at them and say, well, why are you making fun of me? Well, why are you making fun of me? Well, why are you making fun of me? And eventually you end up with more and more of the balls that are removed from the topic pool, and now nothing is on the table. I think that the biggest fight amongst comedians seems to be, and that they seem to have doubled down on, is the idea of nothing being off the table. Some of them go at the whole table. Some of them pick a seat.
Word, yeah. I feel like if we're approaching comedy, me and myself, I'd be like, anything goes in a certain way.
Lenny Bruce
That's just
cursed a
how I
lot,
feel.
told dirty jokes. During a time where there were obscenity laws, he would go to prison. He died on heroin, being sued by mad people, broke as fuck. And he was the biggest comedian of his time.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is like Dave Chappelle's a good example of somebody that I can say has a diverse range of groups that he's made fun of, and I feel like that's just an inherent part of comedy. That's one of the things people talk about the most in comedy is
It's like,
groups.
I'm
of
gonna
talking
know that
about
you're
it.
just joking. I'm gonna
We
know
are
that you're just
talking about
joking.
it.
It's comedy. Like, I
Now, on the
can't.
flip side,
know.
But I get
There's-
that because
and that's not to say that there's not a line. Though.
in certain
There's a
areas
line.
of the
That's not
in
to say
cer-
there's not a line.
Okay, now
Definitely.
after this one episode, he's like, I'm done making jokes. He literally stops making jokes about transgender people, and fine. But literally, he's made like $30 million in this last 60 making fun of transgender people, and they're not that funny of jokes. And it's also this bullshit where like, I know I'm gonna say this one thing and say whatever word, and then literally like, I know I'm gonna get these people to crack up. It's like it's almost too easy. The jokes aren't like. Honestly, his narrative was very incoherent. It didn't really go. It kind of went back and forth. I think he's done better before. So he's talked about a lot of people. But since when? Lately,
was
he
rickety.
keeps on just focus
It
on
was
transgender
rickety.
people. People that have the worst
I
fucking
agree.
lives that have just in like intersection with
So
some
he
other
addressed
groups.
both of
that
those
I
he-
wouldn't
things.
say he's focused on
Okay.
transgender
This-
people
okay, so
though.
he-
I think that transgender people.
because they fuck
like,
with him recently,
exactly
or like
how
or
is he-
people like trying to cancel. Like,
Well, no, like they felt singled out, for whatever. Which to me, like, I don't think that his previous comments that like I didn't get. Now, granted, as you said, like I'm not a trans person, so I can't speak for them. But like to me, as a straight person, me seeing it, I'm like, okay, that's funny. Like I'm like sometimes I'll laugh at Shep like, oh, that's fucked up, and it's like it's fucked up, but it's funny.
well, he says
Type of a thing. I didn't feel that he was like. I've never really got the impression that Dave Chappelle was specifically singling out a group.
Purposely,
That's
yeah.
the thing
It's
that I
Dave.
guess I
it's
haven't
a group
personally
that
seen.
it sounds like he's specifically trying not to humanize almost. Like I think that he.
I think he's
wait,
doing
no,
the
let me
opposite.
finish what I'm saying then. In the car joke, he was acting
To
like, okay,
seem
when it
that
gets to
way.
the T's are just like, why is everything so hot? Oh, it sucks. Like nobody knows. Like they don't know why, but they all kind of annoyed at the T's because the T's make the ride go slower. Everybody's God damn it, T's. The fact that you need your shit, it makes it hard. It basically keeps saying that basically in the progressive train that basically the fact that T's get beat up like they're all this stuff happens worse to tease that they're somehow slowing down progress. And it's kind of bullshit. It's specifically trying to not see their point of view. And I think it comes down to prejudices that are inherent within where he grew up and when he grew up and why, like these kind of conservative ideals. So he says, oh, I'm turf. But yeah, be fucking turf, I guess. But just shut the fuck up.
Well, like, I get what you're saying. Like, I understand what you're saying.
They're harmful. I really do think they're harmful. There was a lot of, like, what I was going to say about the South Park thing was basically there was a backlash and there was, like, a reawakening of, like, I didn't know there's ginger stereotypes to South Park. And I know all these other, like, people getting beat up right after. Regardless of whether I don't think they had any more too many more jokes about ginger. Episode. I think they kind of stopped. Well, but it got worse afterwards, is what I'm trying to say. So they might have had other bad jokes. But from what I understand, if I knew, oh, shit, after I said this, that people were getting beat up or that, oh, this group is not only they're getting hurt most than anybody, but also intersection with my own community is getting the worst of the brunt of this, some of this like persecution, that maybe I should shut the fuck up.
So is there anything that proves that there was violence connected to or like to immediately follow the I think it's called Red Dawn is the name of the episode. South Park Red Dawn. Jake, can you look that up?
So no, it was
the episode.
It was ginger. Okay, redheaded school kids get targeted by their students on Kick a Ginger Day, inspired by South Park.
No. Wait. Kick a Ginger Day. That might be something that happened in real life.
Yeah, but they're acting like it's inspired by. I don't know. I don't know what to degree.
No. I understand what you're saying.
I don't know if there's like a numeric way, but I'm just saying like at a certain point the question is, do we joke about whatever like. It basically it creates an environment where it's okay to beat up people.
How old were those kids?
I don't fucking know, man.
Does it say where it happened?
Let's see. Massachusetts. Yeah.
No, but like, was it at school?
Melrose Veterans Memorial Middle School.
Middle school. All right. Nice. So in a middle school. When do you think
the worst shit happens to these kids? Like
I don't think that's the worst shit that happens.
I mean, when does it start?
I do think that trans kids in middle school probably catch hell. I do think that gay kids in middle school when I was a kid,
dude, definitely.
I remember kids before they knew they were gay would catch hell.
I don't know if that is the case anymore, specifically with gay kids.
Yeah.
Now, I think that probably also depends on like where you live and shit
true.
like that.
Is it what's happening with trans kids? Which kids get more
trans kids are probably catching a bunch of shit
which groups do you joke a little more about?
So, here's what I was
like. I don't know what we're talking. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I got you.
I know what you're saying.
What I would say to that is I believe that there is violence against the trans community, but I do not believe that violence comes from Dave Chappelle jokes. And even if not specifically Dave Chappelle jokes, I don't think...
I think people that watch Chappelle are in their right fucking mind. If you're a true fan,
I think that
I would think the same thing with South Park people, but maybe not.
Well, those are middle schoolers. That's a single middle school, right? And middle school kids.
Okay, I don't have like a study. I don't have like a study on it.
All right, but I'm sure that there are studies that exist. I'm not even asking for a study, nor am I being that guy, because one is too many. I understand.
Yeah.
One is too many. But what I'm saying is I don't think that these jokes are the cause of hatred and abuse of trans people. I think that lack of familiarity.
They think so.
I think,
well, that's one thing I'm also kind of wondering, because I feel like you gave a good example, because you made the joke, you were talking about the joke where he was talking about the car. And okay, like I would say that's a good point, because I think that is an example.
He feels about it. It's like, oh, they're just like they're not really have a struggle. It's an invented struggle. They just pick the gender.
Say that.
He acts like
that's what I was gonna ask next though. Like
he's clearly inferring.
That was what I was gonna ask next. Is like what other than that, because I feel like that's a good example of kind of he maybe displayed like an apathy. Or like maybe I would even say a misunderstanding, because I don't even know where the fuck he got that. Like
I think it's part of the act too.
He also said
it's part of the act.
That same span of that same joke, he said, "I understand what it feels like to feel uncomfortable in the body that you're in." Can you imagine the frustration that I experience though when I live in a country where Bruce Jenner can become Caitlyn Jenner, but they gave Cassius Clay for trying to change his name.
I don't give a fuck what.
I know the saying whataboutism is also like an annoying thing, but I think that the total point of that joke was this is a funny way I see a community that I'm not a part of and that I don't truly understand. And that's what the car joke is. And then he says, this is why I keep talking about it, because I don't understand how y'all have all of this power. And then he talked about it in the next special, saying the y'all as in the alphabet people, which he said in, I think it was equanimity.
Those, yeah.
So that would be like the queer community at large, everybody Voltroning together in order to get their goals accomplished has been very effective. It has been. That's just true. That's why there are
It's
so many
like what
letters in the sequence.
Pan-Africanists want Pan-Africanism to do.
Right, and he said that in this special.
Well,
he said, I'm
but
jealous.
I don't understand.
How did y'all get further than us when we're still in the same position? Now, I'm not saying that this is a correct bit and that nobody has a right to be offended. That is not the point of what I'm saying at all.
True.
I think that you can't tell somebody when to be offended. You can't tell somebody when you hurt them. If you hurt them, and you continue to do so after they've told you that what you're doing is hurting them, then you are a dick.
Which is what he's
Period.
kind of doing in this.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what has he said?
Okay.
Like, what else has he said that was like
trying to
specifically against the trans community?
I
Because
think
I'm
It
not.
just keeps getting. It's like there's a
I think what he has been trying to do is
logarithmic.
refine his point
Right.
from one point where it was more offensive to a point where he tried to explain it and he just like walked it slow the whole time until he got to the story about what's her name, Daphne.
Yeah.
So as he
calculated.
got to that story, he said, it's not about whether she said to him, it's not about whether or not you understand. I just need you to understand that I'm a human being having a human experience. That was the ultimate point of what he said.
Right.
And as he said that, you basically get, oh, you just didn't have the words for this at that time, but this is the point of what you're trying to say. You're trying to say, damn, I'm jealous of the shit that y'all get to like call and say like, that's cool, that's not cool. Because black people sure the fuck can't do that. When black people do that, they say, get off your knees, nigger, and salute the flag. That's a difference. Now, I'm not saying that makes it right to offend somebody, but I do think that is what he is saying. And I think that he had to refine that point over the course of several specials, and I think that's why this special exists as his last one in that sequence.
So
Right.
epilogue.
Sort of.
Like,
It was-
yeah,
it
like
was-
the intersectionality is an important thing, and he definitely addressed that. But it's like, why do I not see the people that are making these criticisms? Like, why is that particular part not addressed? Because I agree, like, that was the crux of his argument. And for me, the reason why that resonated so much with me is going back to what I said. I've felt that exact same way. Not even, like, I've never had a problem of, like, seeing other people as having a human experience. Like, I personally that's just not the type of person I am. But I definitely have had that experience of something I'm saying, like, because I don't necessarily agree in one facet or and I've definitely had situations where I was miseducated, like, specifically, not even saying misunderstand, like, literally miseducated, told wrong things, and culturally raised to believe these things. And then I learned more about it after the fact. So, like, I definitely I feel that specific part of it, because it's like he's literally explaining his acknowledgement of other people, specifically trans people. They're living a human experience, and I got the impression, this was just me, because some people said it was not this, but I got the impression that he was definitely taking a big risk mentioning Daphne and using that story, because surely he would know that at least some people would say, oh, you're using this person like as like a like a prop.
A black friend. I have a black
Yeah,
friend.
that's
To
why.
me,
That's why I
like pandering.
mentioned
It
that.
seemed
Not
more
necessarily
like-
fully
I got
think
that,
I'm saying.
It seemed more like he's using an example, the best example, the most direct example that he knows, to demonstrate his recognition of their just humanity.
Think about
And
how
it's
people
like-
don't know a trans person.
Right.
That's why.
You know?
Because to me, like,
It's not that wild. Think about how
I
many
know,
people don't know any black people.
I get you. I get you. But to me,
People
like,
live in homogenous
to me,
communities
just okay.
a
with,
lot of the time.
with the people I know here in Austin and people I'm friends with, like once every couple months, there's like such and such got murdered or
Yeah, man.
or got.
I'm not saying they're not
so
going
that's
through
what's
shit.
wild to me is like I think that there might be a disconnect between some of the miseducation of Dave Chappelle. Well, I'm willing to bet. I know part of the nature of some of those jokes is there's some miseducation involved and there's some prejudice involved. It's definitely there. Now whether now in a world where everything's broken down into a tweet or really the smallest thing you can say, and every single joke now is like I read a transcript of Dave Chappelle's of the stand-up, and it reads totally different. I've seen people that only have read articles about what he said, and like it reads very different than the way he did it. But yet it's still, I feel like the thing I'll say about it is he acts like I wish this existed for black people the same way, but doesn't understand there's an intersectionality between the trans community. They're both disenfranchised groups. They're both
I think he specifically addressed intersectionality though. Like I think he definitely he was specifically talking about intersectionality. That's his point. Is that okay? Like if intersectionality is good, I would like to see it on both sides. And again, I'm not necessarily saying I agree or disagree with him, but from his perspective, he feels that the LGBT community is not accepting the intersectionality, but expecting black people to.
And he also gives the example of feminism and like white feminism when he was talking about the Women's March.
The definition.
So can you look up the term white feminism?
The Women's March in Texas?
Right. Well, he was talking about the Women's March in general. He said, I was thinking about going, but then I called my friend who is a black woman, and she said, I hope all them white bitches get maced.
Really?
Yes.
Because
that is something that exists. That exists in real time.
I see.
That exists right now. And the reason why is because black women feel like white women don't hop in with them on their causes, but expect black women to hop in with them on their causes.
Right. And I think it's important to note, like, that's what he meant when he said, I'm not going to be making jokes laughing with you if I'm not sure we're laughing together. That's exactly what he meant. What he was saying is there's a criticism, and Dave Chappelle is not the only person that holds this opinion. He was saying that the problem that a lot of black people have is that they're like, oh, you're a minority, like you don't understand. But it's like, bruh, it's all kinds of, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying that homophobia is definitely a problem in the black community. Let me be the first to fucking say. But there are plenty of black people that are expected to and do express their support for the LGBT community. Partially, and not all of those people are black and a part of the LGBT community. I'm one of those people. But I'm also one of those people who has experienced personally it not working the other way around. Now, I'm not saying that my anecdotal experience is representative of the whole. That's one of those things we would have to have a study or like, a poll, whatever the fuck for that. But all I'm really saying is like when he says that, I know that if that resonated with me and if it's something that I've experienced, I'm sure there's other people that have experienced that. And that's why so many people are like, I support Dave Chappelle because they understand where he's coming from. So there's definitely a disconnect. And I think that there is like I would say ideally there is a healing that can come in a sense to where like, okay, like we can address this and like, hey, that would be great. Like if we could utilize intersectionality to bring people together in ways where these groups feel like they have a disconnect, I'm for that. You know what I'm saying? But is Dave Chappelle's stand-up doing that? I don't think his stand-up is doing that, but I don't think it's
It's his act. It's his act.
Jake,
I think maybe people.
It's not causing more hammer.
Jake, you got the term white feminism?
Yeah, I got the term
You're
white
talking
feminism.
about-
I had a hard time finding like the origin of it because it looks like it goes back pretty far. But white feminism is a form of feminism that focuses on the struggles of white women, particularly while failing to address distinct forms of oppression faced by ethnic minority women and women lacking other privileges.
And he gave the example of Susan B. Anthony and how I think it was Sojourner Truth wanted to testify. They're like, hey, maybe chill with all that black shit. We're trying to vote. And she's like, motherfucker, I'm black and I'm also a woman. And they're like, yeah, but can you be black later? Basically. So a big thing that Dave Chappelle addressed in this particular special was inclusivity and intersectionality. He was saying that I had all of these opinions about trans people, but I didn't take the time to think about trans people as people having a human experience. And that's basically what the Daphne story was. Now, I definitely recognize the possibility of like tokenism. I have a black friend, therefore I feel like I understand. But he also mentioned that Daphne and he have the opinion that there is no such thing as punching down unless you consider yourself greater than. How else can you punch down?
Yeah, I mean, we started off by he started the show off by saying he's rich and famous. Then he started beating up. On
and he also made that joke several times in the special. Like,
it's the act,
right?
So
and that's the thing. Like, how's a black man punching down on like another community? And it's like not even to say that other people don't have struggles.
He's a rich man.
He's evolved. Like the thing about it is he evolved from his $50 million walk away to jump to a $60 million.
I understand.
That's always
he is in a position of power. That's
okay.
I understand.
He has a voice.
That's always been a part of his act. Though it's like I'm rich. Like that's always been a part of his act.
Yeah,
it's all.
That is
I think people are getting upset about like it's the act. It's the Chappelle act. You're talking about a disconnect. Maybe some people just don't know the context of Dave Chappelle. They might just hear what he said and not know that that's Dave Chappelle.
But also, as a comedian,
it's an act.
Supposed to be doing this,
right? Yeah.
As a comedian, isn't he supposed to be doing this? All the best comedians spoke about taboo things,
right,
for their time.
So
whether we're talking about Lenny Bruce,
things that are
George
supposed to
Carlin, fucking Andrew Dice Clay.
Today, I'm seeing like things that are supposed to like mix shit up are getting the most shit even today. Like Eminem's still getting shit from like.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like I don't think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
These things are supposed to be what they are.
And I think it's important to know.
You might just hear the joke and not know that that's what it's supposed to do. Yeah. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. Fuck you up.
Right. And like it's good. It's good that it gets people talking.
It's all fun.
I think that any good art makes you feel something, and clearly, everybody that's seen this seems to have felt something, whether that's good or bad.
Spock, we're talking about it.
But we're talking about it, and I forget what my second point was, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
So I would say is okay. If the goal is to understand there's both at the intersection of both groups of people that are disenfranchised, there's people that are hyper disenfranchised and hyper exploited, and like in between that. So we're talking about black, in this case, black trans.
Totally, not everybody's getting it the same.
So knowing that, okay, but there has to be okay. I'll say with what Dave Chappelle was saying is like he might have progressed, understands there's like they have a human experience, but you can tell he's only walked a few feet down that road of like unlearning these kind of prejudices he had. He was miseducated, and I'll just say like there needs to be this thing where
I think
it needs to be a group. Please let me just finish this thing. I swear to God, I'll lose my point. I swear. Okay, is that basically like it really needs to be known that we're gonna move towards progress and kind of understanding. But like the fact, some of his jokes seemed a little tone deaf even within that. So yeah, he's talking about intersection, but like knowing that there needs to be a lot of fucking progress within this group. And if you're gonna say like these homophobic ideas and transphobic ideas in the black community specifically, it needs to be a fucking lot of progress. But it needs to be like an awareness of yes, there needs to be progress. Not I'm team turf. I'm still here. I don't know. It just felt a little like that's what I'm saying. Is like now Dave Chappelle's one person. He's gonna create like like some dialogue that's good, but as a group we got to know yes we're going to move towards more progressive ideas and understanding, but yes intersectionality, that like yeah black people, like we got to give them like a chance to kind of like to get their ideas to be on page with some of our ideas so we can kind of move together pull these people out of the fringe, that like the crack between the intersect. You know what I mean?
I know
So
exactly
that's
what
the
you're
only thing I'll
saying.
say.
Nah,
It's like,
yeah,
maybe
and
Dave Chappelle, maybe your uncle won't ever
You're
do
correct.
this. You know, but knowing that we gotta like that's the vocal. That's the thing.
Right. Like I would.
And listen to each other.
Yeah.
Like just listen. Anybody in a general way
Yeah.
as a human, just listen.
Yeah, like I think
Just
that
listen.
me
Hear me
and
out.
you
Whatever
got
it is.
it like got two different things out of it
Totally different
because
sides on it.
yeah, because like to
True.
me, I thought it was
True.
fucking
That's
hilarious.
That's an enigma, man.
I'm gonna just say that like I thought it was
I
fucking
also thought
hilarious.
it was hilarious.
But I definitely get though, like depending on your position, and depending how strongly you feel about the topic, it may not be funny if it's something that is rubbing you the wrong way. Because again, like as a straight male, like I'm fully aware that there may be shit that he said to me that I'm like, oh, that's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it any type of way, but because I'm not trans, it didn't hit me the same way, or
True.
because I don't like. I mean, like I've known trans people, but I don't have like I'm not gonna lie and say like
see
I've got
terrible things in my
I've
feed
got a
every
whole
month.
community
All
of
right,
trans
all right.
people I know.
But
To
no,
close it
So-
out, to close it out, to close it out, give it a rating 1 to 5, and like a brief paragraph on like what you thought of it, the reason for your rating. all
4.
right?
I'll
1 to
take.
5. 1 to 5. 5 being the highest.
I'm sorry,
1 being
2.
the lowest. Apollo, go.
For my rating for the special itself,
Yeah.
I would say 4 out of 5.
And why?
I thought it was hilarious. I thought that, like, for me, like, I found myself laughing a lot at it. I'm very, like, I love dark humor. So I think that if you're the type of person, if you are thick-skinned, if you like that type of thing, then you're probably going to enjoy it. I will say the reason that it was not a 5 out of 5 is because, one, like, he's had funnier. Like, he's you know, all his stuff is good, but some of his stuff is like better than others. And also I think that a lot of the points that Ev made and some of the points that other people have made about the tone deaf shit, some of that stuff, even for me, I was like, like, yeah, like I agree. The turf thing, I felt like, feels kind of tone deaf. So I would take a star off for that, but with that said, it was still really funny to me.
All right. What you got, Jake?
You should probably.
All right. F, what you got?
Oh man, I would say 2 out of 5. But honestly, the conversation afterwards, 4 out of 5. That's a 6 out of 5. No, I'm just saying. No, for reasons I said before. I think
Yeah.
the aspects that were tone deaf, things that really are damaging. I think it's sort of a disingenuous like move from wanting to be progressive. I don't know. Like he kind of jumped in and out of misgender. Like he kind of. There was a respect. He could have been a little more respectful in his tactic, but also maybe that's not the point. To know that maybe not everybody can be, or has to be, or that one person that gets to be who Dave Chappelle is. Like, is he gonna be able to just have immediate like progress? Like, what is that? Like, how much can somebody progress in their lifetime from where they start? So I think there's a thing. But I would still just say, like, on the thing itself, I don't know. I didn't really think it was that funny, even, like, without this. Like, there's things about that cracked me up, and mostly, like, from peak Chappelle to where it was, I still feel like he was, like, about 40%.
What do you consider peak Chappelle?
Peak Chappelle was sprinkle crack on him.
Okay.
Like
so
whatever
like,
I forgot.
Yeah,
When
that's,
he talking about San Francisco, I think he was
that's
specifically
separate,
talking about that.
Feeling
I
them
was like,
softly.
oh man, that's the shit.
Yeah,
And
what
it was just
what is what? Yeah.
just enough. Whereas this just felt a little bit mean. It's like, man, even if it's fun, like the jokes weren't even that good at the peak. It reminded me of like the first time that like there's a gay kid in like middle school, and he didn't know he's gay. We didn't know he's gay. We just know he moved funny, and people made fun. And like once you get past that, and you're like kind of like, you're making the same jokes on.
Yeah.
It felt very.
If you were to run into one of your classmates as an adult,
Like,
and
oh,
they're
you
still
didn't
making the same
change. Like,
jokes,
oh,
you'd
you
be
didn't
like,
change.
wow,
It felt like that to
you
me.
fucking suck.
So, but I do really feel like there's something beyond. Like, I'm not ready to just be like, fuck. I would love it. Be like, okay, dude, if you're gonna move on from this and come out with some other shit, like, come. Oh, if you're done talking about this, next time we hear from you, you're never saying another shit. Like, great, don't ever fucking talk about it again. That's awesome. And, like, you talk this shit out and you've done, then we can have a better. Then like I'll, but he's, so
I hear you.
that's.
What you
talk
think,
about
Art?
Yeah, like somewhere over 5. I don't know exactly. It was rickety. It wasn't. Oh shit. Somewhere over 5.
Over
It was.
5?
No,
Out of 5.
2.5 out of 5 is what he's saying, right?
No, I'm saying like maybe. Yeah, it was rickety. It wasn't I wasn't impressed, but I mean, I'm gonna listen because it's Dave Chappelle, and as long as everybody and anybody's just listening and making the right moves and it's actual progress, then we're good. But yeah, good. It was good and bad to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm really split up on it. I think you guys made some actually really interesting points.
I agree with
and
y'all.
It was interesting to talk about it because I think you made a good point that like from different perspectives, you're taking the jokes differently and not interpreting them like the same way. I mean, I love Dave Chappelle. Like I've always loved Dave Chappelle. I think it was like a little less. It wasn't what I thought it would be. I think he had a lot of balls to actually like take on and
True,
do
too.
the jokes that he did.
True too. Yeah.
And also, I think what is he like? 45 now. 40. He's in his 50s, right?
Yeah.
No,
So I think there is
how far
that.
do we expect
He's in
somebody to
his 40s.
progress once
Progress,
they're already
right?
He said he didn't even like hear of like that it was a thing until he probably was my age.
Yeah,
He
right.
probably was like 35 and just like, oh wait, you guys, there's a community behind you guys that are just pissed off about this. That's what he mentioned in it, right? He was just
Right.
like, wait, oh shit, okay. So like, how can you? Whereas like, when I was in my 20s, I had a cousin that had transitioned and very depressed, like very like still isolation. Like I visit in Denver, like would go, but like each time something happened, or like there's a lot of. You know what I mean? You start to
It gives
know-
you perspective on it that
Yeah,
a lot
stuff
of
you
people
see,
don't have
they,
because
like,
not
literally
everybody.
never-
Yeah.
So like you kind of have to understand. I think that there's just how much can we. I don't know. I think doubling down.
But realize that what each one of us just said was that when you have a trans friend, you think differently, or when you know a trans person, you think differently. I truly do believe that there is a huge. The biggest reason why I think All in the Family is the greatest show of all time is because it showed different segments of America a picture of themselves. It showed an old racist white man who was also rude to women and just like a piece of shit. Archie Bunker was a piece of shit, right? Who lived in the same home with his wife, who was a lovely woman but married to a piece of shit. His daughter, who was a smart feminist. His son-in-law, who was Polish. He used to call him racist shit all the time.
Polak.
Next
Excuse
door
me.
was the Jeffersons. Next door was the Jeffersons, who, you know, he was racist. Sammy Davis Jr. kissed him on the face, who was black and Jewish. Like this racist man. But he also improved throughout each season. He became a better person as the show progressed. I believe that this special, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I started out as probably a 4. I give him that 3.5 because of like the straight like bravery that it took to say damn the consequences and put out something that was very, very much so like the type of show that a great comedian would do, and by that I mean subversive. Almost intentionally so. Almost so intentionally so that it became annoying in moments. Now, in addition to that, I saw a. In addition to that, I saw a string of tweets that I think I sent to y'all, and it really added a perspective that I hadn't thought of, and it was the one that we briefly touched on earlier. I'm just gonna read it. It's from the Gates of Mel. She said, Dave Chappelle left $50 million on the table, left his whole family behind, and hid out in Africa because a white man laughed too hard at a nigga joke that he told with their express purpose of people laughing at it. I would not believe he doesn't understand the issue with his specials. That is a really, really great point. A joke that he wrote, he felt was going to be damaging to the interaction of his people with other people. And this is a point that you made earlier when you were talking about gingers and like all of the violence that takes place against specifically the trans community. And we cannot pretend that that is not a very real thing and that television and culture do not literally impact the way that we as people live our lives, because it's literally the point that I just made about All in the Family. I believe that in order for us to stop hating one another, we have to become more familiar with one another's humanity. And I do believe that there are ways where people express certain thoughts and ideas that denies the humanity of others. And when people's humanity is denied, people who already have bad ideas might be spurred on to action. And that is an issue. I believe that throughout the course of these specials, he himself showed some evolution on the topic. But I also understand why somebody might feel like it's just more poking.
Agreed.
That's it. 3.5.
Word. I feel that.
Yes?
Solid.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Good
Let's take a
discussion.
break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk some sports.